Wow, now this is amazing. Creality K1 here, obviously. I recalibrated my input shaping after replacing my extruder. Well, first I replaced the extruder, and then I tried this single layer test here. I don't know if this light helps or hurts. It probably hurts. So I replaced the extruder, and I did this one layer test, and it was all wavy, and it completed pretty nice, and but it was not. It was far from perfect. Seemed to have some Z offset issue or something, and so I printed a couple times, and it persisted. Then I ran input shaping, and recalibrated the input shaping and the leveling, and which I should have done in the first place, but I figured I would try it without it, just for science. No, I tried it without it. I wanted to see if it made a difference, just based on the extruder being a different extruder, even just with manufacturing tolerances. If it was the same series, it would probably vary in mass slightly, and so therefore affect the input shaping calibration results. And it's a new, it's an updated design, so very likely varies in mass slightly. Now it's such a small percentage that you'd think it wouldn't matter much, but could go to show you sort of. It's not necessarily proof, but I think it's definitely indicative. Use your own judgment that even this tiniest little mass change will change things in the input shaping. And so I couldn't be much happier with the quality of this first layer test here. Not perfect. I'm not sure what happened on that little border. Oh, you know what? That's where it changes direction right there. So when it draws the border layers, it starts there, and so then it does one lap and it stops there again and does a U-turn and goes the other direction. And so that's what that little imperfection is. But otherwise, I mean, this thing looks perfect. I am very happy. Well, this corner, slightly not perfect in this corner. I am not going to give that any... I'm going to call this, if it continues like this, I'm calling this an A-plus print. Slight goofiness there, but again, that's where it started to lay down the purge line. And because I'm using the entire bed for this print, I mean, this print, the dimensions of this square are 220 millimeters by 220 millimeters by 0.2 millimeters. So, I mean, it's right up to the edge of the print, and so therefore the purge line is also right on the edge of the print, and that was some leftover Creality PLA from the previous print, and so that obviously, to me, where the purge line started, sort of caused that first line to deform a little bit. Not sure what that little dot is right there. Maybe I'll check the bed after to see if there's a little bit of damage on the bed. It's a pretty new bed, though, a new bed surface. It had gotten damaged. I'm not sure if it was my fault or the printer's fault. Definitely could have been my fault, but the bed got scarred. And so I did. I contacted customer support at Creality, and I said, hey, the thing dug into my bed, and they sent me a new print bed surface very quickly. So I was impressed by that. Their customer service, not great communicators, but they are great at sending parts. They recently offered, because I had multiple replacement parts sent, they did actually offer me to replace the whole printer. And I'm not sure. I had just decided this morning that I was going to go through with it because of the horribly failed print earlier this morning, but that turned out that the filament had tangled horribly. I'm doing an overhead print spool payoff here, and I was using that failed print. I finally opened the filament that came with my Ender 3S1 Pro, and it wasn't on a spool. It was just a big coil. Oops, I hit the 5 minute time limit on my phone there, my phone camera. I was saying that I don't remember what I was saying exactly, but yeah, keep your bed clean. Yeah, the 22-minute estimated time print, almost done. So it's actually, so yeah, it says 66%. 16 and 6. Yeah, 16 down, 6 to go. So yeah, 22-minute print, and I probably won't sit here for 6 more minutes. Maybe I will. We'll see if I can come up with enough to talk about. But anyway, so looking very promising, actually. Although I do have, yesterday I put in another customer service. They if they realize it's me over and over, they're gonna get sick of me. But so I put in another request yesterday because so when I got my new my new extruder and I went to install it, I noticed that there was a blob of filament up near the heat break, and the thermal silicone sock didn't have any filament on the outside. So that told me that the heat break and the nozzle were not up against each other, likely inside the heat sink and inside the what do you call it, the heat block. And so I said, oh, I need to tighten that up. And so when I put the new extruder on, and then I dug into the nozzle thing. And by the way, that was a replacement nozzle. That was another part that they had sent me very quickly, just basically based on it. That was like the first. That was after like a week of excellent printing, and I got an error code, and it still printed fine. It completed that print, but it gave me an error code. It halted on error. I turned it off and back on, and it said, "Do you like to continue the print?" I said yes, and it finished the print perfectly. So, not a big deal. But I contacted them and said, "Hey, I got an error code, blah blah blah," and they said, "All right, we're sending you a new heater module." And so it wasn't the original heater module. So so on the replacement heater module, it was oozing. This was yesterday. I found this. It was oozing filament out the top, and so I said, "Oh, I need to snug that up." So I did that. But while I was in there, I was trying to plug the connectors back in after I redid the extruder and tightened up the nozzle. I couldn't get the connector for the heater or the thermistor, maybe one of them. I couldn't get them back into the connector socket, and so what I did was I tried, because the glue was in the way. They used some glue, like a staking compound. They used like some staking compound so the connectors don't fall out, and so I said, all right, well, I need to pull that glue out of the way because it's so hard to get at those connectors to plug them in. So I was trying to pull the glue away, and it broke the socket on the heater connector. And I said, oh no. And that's not exactly what I said, but it's a family show. And so it just kept popping out. And even at first, I even wrote to them before I tried running it and said, hey, this thing broke, and you should have sent me new glue. If it needs to be glued, and you're gonna send me the thing that was initially glued, then shouldn't you send the glue with it, the staking compound? And so I haven't heard back on that yet, but I only sent it yesterday. They seem to be overwhelmed. They seem to have gone from like 1-day responses to 2-day responses, which isn't horrible. I'm sure they have plenty. The poor person that has to deal with this all day is overwhelmed, but they do take care of you. They send parts. So anyway, so I basically requested a new printed circuit board because the connector is broken. The only reason it's working now is I sort of stuffed the wires in strategically so it's pushing the connector in, because otherwise it just kept popping out. I kept trying to run it and the connector kept popping out. But so I sort of wedged it in there to get it to be permanent, to get it to stay in the socket. And as you can see, it's working, but that is not ideal. I would like to have it correct, and so I asked them and we'll see what happens. We'll see if they send me a new circuit board for the hot end. Like I say, they did offer to replace the whole printer. And actually, so I just had a thought this morning. Maybe I'll ask them. Say, can you make it a K1 Max instead of a K1? Then I would be willing to go through the hassle of send it, and that would be really cool. And I would probably even send them the remaining balance of the difference between the cost of the two machines. So evidently, I did come up with 6 minutes worth of more things to say. And so this looks really good, and so I can make one video out of this. Like I say, that one little scar, that's entirely because there was a spider web of filament from the previous print that was across there, and had I been out here paying attention when it started, I could have cleaned that off, and that scar would have been non-existent. We have this little guy here, that, like I say, that's just because of the purge line. And we have this guy over here because that's the starting point and the U-turn point. And you can see there's still a little bit of white filament in there at that point. So yeah, you can see where it started. It started with white filament and then faded to the yellow, I guess. Yep. And then it tripped over its purge line there. And then it was tripping over that spider web. And there's the other purge line. I'm not sure why there's two purge lines. That's strange to me. But it does it. As you can see, there's a little bit of white there. Perfect all over. Let's peel it off and see how the underside looks. I imagine it's going to be beautiful like the rest. My broken spatula here. I tried to leverage a print off once, and I broke that corner off. So I learned to not do that again. It doesn't want to get under that corner. Maybe this corner. Well, the adhesion's good. Can I zoom out a little bit? Yeah, there we go. Let's see if I can get this off of here with more. There it goes. So I'm going to come over to this corner just because I don't want to break the... I don't want to try to break the layers. So ideally, there are no cracks between the layer lines, and it looks like it's going to be perfect. I mean, that is super nice. And this is not the dual color. I have a bunch of the same filament company, whichever it was. Might have been Matter Hackers, but I'm not sure. I mean, that is just beautiful bottom layer. Oh, I know what that dot was. This dot, so you can see the white dot there. That was already on the print bed for whatever reason. I don't know if it just oozed out when it was sitting there heating up, or I'm not sure what the deal was there, but a little dot. So if I was paying attention at the beginning, if I was out here monitoring it locally, then I could have popped that off when it started to print. And also that spider web, like I say, this is from that spider web of filament that was on the print bed that I could see before, because it was like, yeah, I said it in the video, you can see that. But the underside of this, man, this is beautifully perfect. Slight, yeah, a little bit here for some reason, not perfect. A little disappointing. I wonder why. Let's see, was that at the end? Or let's see, let me reposition this to where as it started, it was here. And so that was up in this far corner, the far right corner. So the rest of it is not like that, but that far right corner for some reason is separated a little bit. And so that tells me that corner of the bed is likely a little bit lower. And so it didn't squish the layers together perfectly. So not a perfect bed level. And not a perfect print. So I was going to give this an A+ here, but with that, I'm going to give it a... Geez, it just went to a B-. It went from an A+ to a B- in 10 seconds of looking at it there. But anyway, overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I think I may take them up on the replacement printer, see if I can leverage it up to a K1 Max, whether I have to pay the difference or not. Maybe they'll say, okay, well, since you were an early adopter and had so many problems, that maybe they'll upgrade me for free. I kind of want to wait until, I hate to send it back and go, some weeks without without this printer though. I do have a Ender 3 S1 Pro, but that, I'm just kind of spoiled by the speed of this, and that's not going to be as fun, and it's going to suck to wait for prints. But I do also have, I ordered a VZ Bot 330 all-wheel drive, or whatever he's calling it. It's supposedly really super badass. CoreXY, high temperature, bigger printer. It's like 330 millimeters by 330 millimeters by, like, I want to say 450 millimeters tall. Super high speed printer. It cost about 3 times as much as this did when you include shipping. And then I also had to buy, yesterday I ordered a Raspberry Pi 4 kit for it. That was like another $220 all told. And so I'm a little over $2,000 on that printer. And that might be coming the 8th. I just got a DHL notice that something's coming on the 8th. But that also could be my Creality print bed, which is actually more likely. But both of them I expect to come around the same time. So I'm not sure. So maybe I'll wait until I get that. Although I imagine I'll have a little bit of downtime getting that printer set up, because I haven't set up a Raspberry Pi in years, and I don't speak Linux, and so maybe I can delay the K1 replacement until I get that one, and then build that one, and so I'll have another high-speed printer to play with while I wait for my K1 or K1 Max replacement. But until then, this is going to be fine. I'm not going to sweat that at all. If I'm really concerned, I can just print. I never print anything this big generally, for the most part, and definitely not one layer thick. And so either it'll be, if I did more than one layer, that would be perfectly acceptable. And otherwise, I could just print on the rest of this whole bed. So if I see how much of this is actually separated and see how far this easily goes. So it got to about halfway where it really started resisting, peeling apart there. So it's really, it's localized to this quarter of the bed. Like I say, that it only went that far because I really forced it. I hate to ruin this, but I'm going to see. Yeah, it's really not wanting to come apart there. It's basically the center of the bed. It's all good. And it's not even this whole corner, actually. So right there, it gets better as I go away from the corner itself. So you can see a little crease there, so that hints that it's not perfect, because the rest of it is, it doesn't. The rest of it kind of, it's not, there's no information there that there's any kind of problem. But if I go to here, there's a little bit of a crease. So yeah, so you can see. All right, so it sort of diminishes as I go away from the corner. And similarly in the other direction, a little worse in this direction, where it still cracks. Now it's creasing but not cracking. And then here, cracked again there. Cracked. So anyway, that's a bed level thing, and I think I'm curious now, and I think I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to reprint and not uncheck the calibrate and see. Yes, like this corner, no creasing. Forget about cracking, not even creasing. A little crease there. So if I really harass it pretty good, I can get it to crease. But really, that is, I call this a successful test for the most part. Like I said, I'm going to rerun it and see if it's different. And maybe I'll run out here at the beginning to make sure there are there's nothing on the bed causing it to get goofy. Like there could be a little bit on the, yeah, there's a little bit of a blob there. So anyway, I'm running out of time on my phone here. So run out of space. So, do all the YouTube things if you could. Help to promote the channel. If you like this video, like, subscribe, set the bell notifications. I noticed a weird thing that just because you subscribe doesn't make everything show up in your feed. I notice sometimes a video that I'll see it a couple days later, and I'll say I didn't see that on my feed because I check my feed all the time. So hit notifications if you want to make sure you don't miss any of my content, and share with your friends. Comment any questions, any requests. It's funny I say that and I don't get any requests. I get some questions though. But anyway, thanks for watching, and happy printing.